Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff One Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. And welcome to another sub segment, fictional women around the world. I have to say, I deliberated for a long time about who we were going to talk about for this one. I wanted to do Storm from X-Men, but when I tell you that should probably be a whole episode, that should probably... Oh my gosh, I was drowning in research. Like, I've already done half the research, and I was like, no, I can't do this.
Let's do it as an episode.
I loved that character as a kid, and I really want to talk about her. We never want to not talk about something that is a lot more work, but it was just too much work for me to get this done in a timely and respectful manner to that character.
Gotcha.
So, yes.
So then we need to do one soon on her.
Yes, I would love to. I was fascinated by what I was reading, but it was just like too in depth. I was going to have to look into a lot of other stuff. But I went with Monica Rambeau, and I am focusing on the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe version. I'll talk about her in the comics a little bit, but I am focusing on that one because the Marvels did just come out on streaming, not currently a sponsor, on Disney Plus. And I texted you about it because I've found it really interesting that, and you can go back and listen to our episode on Nia DaCosta, who's the director of that, for more on this. But I found it really interesting how many people were acting like they'd never heard of it before. Like it had never been in theaters. And a lot of them liked it. And I was like, So that I just find that very interesting. But I thought in honor of that, we could kind of talk about this character, Monica Rambeau, who is one of the three main characters in that movie. With that being said, there are going to be spoilers to the Marvels and WandaVision. I would say like we're not going to go too in depth, but they're like huge spoilers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like just in general, the fact is a huge spoiler.
Right.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, maybe hold off on this one until you have. Or if you don't care, come along for the ride.
Go for it.
Yeah. So standard Marvel disclaimer. We are, as I said, focusing mainly on the MCU version here. A lot of these things are going through retcons, which means they go back and they kind of change the history of a character. I read a very interesting article about that recently, about whether that is a good or bad thing that is happening so much. But today we are talking about Captain Monica Rambeau, who's a PhD, played in the MCU by Teyonah Parris and Takira Akbar as an adult. This character was first introduced in the comics in 1982. First created by Roger Stern and John Romita Jr. This character was originally designed to look like actress and action star Pam Grier, but the design changed along the line. John Romita Jr. said, "I just took some reference on Pam Grier because I always loved her. And at the last moment, somebody said that, well, we need to use this woman here because they thought maybe Pam Grier wasn't as good looking as the model they found. It was fine because by the time she got done by other artists, it ended up looking like the generic black character anyway." So this was an this was a really interesting back and forth that you can read about this character, but I thought that was a very telling thing. He was like Pam Grier, and they were like, okay, we'll just go back and forth. This character got her first solo comic in 2022 called Photon. But okay, in the MCU, she's the daughter of Maria Rambeau. Also, this is the first time I put together that their last name sounds like Rambeau, and I like the Sylvester Stallone.
You didn't figure that out?
No. Samantha, I didn't. I was just like, Rambeau, it sounds so beautiful. Anyway.
Okay.
It was, her mother was a pilot and best friend of Carol Danvers, who was later Captain Marvel. And Monica called her Auntie Carol. Carol calls her Lieutenant Trouble. When reports of Danvers' death reach Monica, Monica refuses to believe them. 6 years later, thanks to space-time continuum stuff, Carol shows up and she's thrilled to learn, Monica's thrilled to learn that Carol has powers. And Monica, it kind of helps convince her mom to join up with Carol to protect refugees of the Skrull from the Kree. And I don't really have time to go into the whole thing. You can watch Captain Marvel or you can listen to different podcasts, but it's a whole thing. Monica helps Carol choose the colors for her superhero outfit. Danvers goes to space to keep the peace. Monica's mom, Maria, founds this thing called SWORD, which stands for Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division, which is a division that Monica later joined as an adult. She went into astronaut training and was the subject of stories in newspapers. And then during the snap, which is when Thanos snapped and then half of the population of the entire universe just faded from existence, became ashes. Monica was snapped out while accompanying her mom to her cancer treatments, and she, along with all the others that disappeared in the snap, returned 5 years later, only to find that her mother had died of cancer while she had been gone. As she was wading through her grief, she was put on assignment for the Westview Crisis, which is what happened in WandaVision. That was that whole thing. Basically, Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, and you can see the episode we did on her with Joey, had created a sort of sitcom bubble to shield herself from the pain of all that she had lost, including Vision, her love, Vision, and her 2 kids. But it also involved subjugating the residents of Westview. And it turned out she had been manipulated by someone named Agatha, who's getting her own show, who wanted her wild magic, wanted the Scarlet Witch's wild magic. Monica crosses the ever-growing Hex's barriers several times to try to reach Wanda and save the residents, and it causes her cells to be rewritten, and it grants her super-powered abilities. So she is able to eventually reach Wanda and connect with her over their grief. Here's a quote. "I lost the person closest to me, too. The worst thing I can think of has already happened to me, and I can't change it. I can't undo it. I can't control this pain anymore, and I don't think I want to, because it's my truth." And she was very determined to help Wanda. She was very empathetic with her. She was the one that was always fighting, like, something else is going on here. We shouldn't just, kill her. Monica is then recruited by a Skrull, instructed by Nick Fury to join Saber, Strategic, Aerospace, Biophysics, and Exolinguistic Response. A couple of years later, she is tapped to investigate the Universal Neural Teleportation Network. In doing so, her powers are entangled with that of Captain Marvel / Carol Danvers and Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. The entanglement means that whenever one of them uses their powers, they swap powers. Monica and Carol finally talk about why Carol left and why it hurt Monica, about Maria's death, and they start to heal their relationship. A lot of stuff happens, and in order to mend a potentially really bad reality-destroying, rupturing jump point, and I'm aware that for some of you, this is all like, what are you saying? It makes sense if you watch it. Maybe don't think that too hard, but it makes sense. But Monica crosses to the other side of the jump point and closes it. And she wakes up in an alternate reality where her mom is alive and it's X-Men. That's the spoiler.
That's the spoiler.
Yeah, it's the X-Men universe. So we've talked about it before. I really liked the movie. I liked that they had to learn to depend on each other and work in tandem when their powers were switching. I really liked that. I thought they were all pretty well developed and different characters, and I liked that. When it comes to Monica specifically, there was a running joke in the movie and in general in the comics about her superhero name, because she's gone by Spectrum, Pulsar, Photon, and Captain Marvel. So Kamala Khan was always trying to maybe you should be this, or what about this? And Monica was like, no, I'm not into that. So her powers, I do love when Carol gets back and she's like, when did you get powers?
Right.
What's going on here?
What is happening?
And Monica says, I walked through the radiation shielding barrier of a witch's hex, and now I can manipulate and see all wavelengths of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay.
End of story.
Yes. And we are talking about the MCU right now, but just to note, in the comics, she was the first female Captain Marvel and the first Black woman to join the Avengers officially. And she has appeared on a lot of lists. She's very well liked by critics and fans. From Nick Hemming at Looper, here's a quote. Few understand just how monumental her contributions to the Marvel Universe truly are, nor how massive her character potential remains decades after her debut. As a character, her impressive energy-manipulating powers make her an alpha-level threat, while her strong leadership and sarcastic wit make her a fan favorite. This is the untold truth of Marvel's all-too-often forgotten Avenger, Monica Rambeau. So yeah, interested to see what happens next with her. Yeah. And maybe we'll come back and do more on this whole thing, because we do have a lot of thoughts. But yeah, that's what I have to say for now.
Thank you for sharing. I'm still hold on to the whole Rambeau thing you didn't know.
I did not know it. I can't believe I didn't put that together. I think I was thinking in my French brain, like Rambeau means beautiful. Whatever. These comic book episodes always stress me out, but they're fun.
No.
But it's just like so much stuff
It is.
to navigate through. But if I've forgotten anything or if I got anything wrong, please let me know. And if you have any suggestions for upcoming episodes, you can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book where we do talk about a lot of comics and women in comics. You can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff One Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite shows.